Here's a truth you probably don't want to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's a Satan inside every human being. Not some red-skinned demon with horns and a pitchfork. Not some shadow hiding beneath your bed. Satan is you. Satan is me. Satan is us. Still don't believe it? Then look back at history. Who gave the orders for wars that lasted centuries? Who torched cities out of sheer ambition? Who ran the death camps, the witch trials, the massacres? Was it Satan? No, it was humans. And the worst part? Humans never admit they're the evil ones. So we invented something convenient. We called it Satan. From childhood, we were told Satan was our enemy. A horned monster, skin like fire, wielding a trident. But here's what they didn't tell you. The Bible never described him like that. Not once. That image was never divine. It was man-made, forged out of fear, guilt, and the dark corners of our own minds. Let me tell you a story. In the 14th century, as Europe burned from plague and war, an unknown painter lived through hell on earth. He didn't dream of demons. He saw them walking the streets, greed in the faces of kings, wrath in the eyes of priests, envy in the prayers of the pious. So he painted, not angels, not saints. He painted what he saw, a red beast, horned, eyes of fire, a body forged in flame. The world looked at it and gasped, "This is Satan." But he wasn't painting a demon. He was painting humanity. So who is Satan, really? Is he a supernatural being, the ruler of hell, a cosmic villain whispering sins into your ear? Or is he just a name we gave to everything we can't face within ourselves? Let's go back to where the name Satan first appeared in the Hebrew Bible. There, Satan isn't even a name. In ancient Hebrew, it just means accuser, opposer, or adversary. Not a devil, not a demon, just a role. Take the book of Job. Satan isn't cast out of heaven. He's not the enemy of God. He's a prosecutor in God's divine courtroom, tasked with testing Job's faith by stripping him of everything he holds dear. Satan doesn't rebel. He works for God. Yeah, you heard that right. The most feared name in Christian culture started as God's lawyer. In the book of Zechariah, it's the same story. Satan appears, accusing the high priest Joshua of wrongdoing, but another angel steps in to defend him. Again, no rebellion, no pitchfork, no fire and brimstone. Satan is just doing his job. So what happened? When did a heavenly prosecutor become the Lord of Darkness? That transformation didn't come from heaven. It came from history. In 586 BCE, Jerusalem fell. The Babylonians destroyed the temple, and the Jews were exiled. They were taken to a foreign land where they encountered a new belief system, Zoroastrianism, the religion of ancient Persia. This religion preached dualism, that the universe was locked in eternal battle between two gods, one of light, one of darkness. Ahura Mazda versus Angra Mainyu. Good versus evil. Forever. Legend says a Jewish scholar once debated a Persian priest by a firelight in exile. The priest asked, "Do you believe good and evil will battle until the end of time?" The scholar replied, "I believe darkness exists only when people turn their backs on the light." But something about that Persian fire seeped into the Jewish soul. They began to imagine a force of darkness opposing God, not just a role, but a person, a being, a villain. And so Satan began to mutate from a tester to a traitor, from a divine function to a cosmic enemy. You see now? The Satan we know today isn't some ancient truth. He's a patchwork of fear, exile, war, and cultural exchange. He's not divine, he's human. So I'll ask you again, is Satan your enemy, or is he just a mirror, reflecting what you refuse to see in yourself? Don't be fooled by the light. Just because something shines doesn't mean it's pure. The darkest truth about humanity is this: evil didn't come from hell. It fell from heaven. That's not a metaphor, it's what the ancient texts say. When the Jews returned from Babylonian exile, they came back carrying more than trauma. They came back carrying ideas about angels and demons, about light and darkness, about a war not between nations, but between cosmic forces. But humans don't like abstract threats. We want names, faces, villains. And so Satan began to take shape. Somewhere near the shores of the Dead Sea, in a remote desert cave, a group of Jewish mystics wrote down their fears, not of beasts or monsters, but of an invisible war between good and evil. Today, we call those writings the Dead Sea Scrolls. And in those scrolls, Satan is no longer just an accuser. He has a name: Belial. Belial doesn't attack with swords. He doesn't scream or roar. He whispers. He speaks softly when you're tired. He offers comfort when you're desperate. He plants doubt when you're alone. He doesn't force you to fall. He lets you choose it. One ancient text describes a final war. The sons of light, led by Archangel Michael, against the sons of darkness, led by Belial. But here's the twist. They believed this war wasn't just coming in the future. It was happening right now, inside every soul. Belial wasn't out there. He was in here. And then came a darker book. The Book of Enoch. You've heard the old story. Angels called sons of God came down from heaven and mated with human women. Their children became giants, Nephilim. But Enoch took that legend and pushed it further. He named the angels, Shemihazah, Azazel, and dozens more. They didn't just lust after humans. They taught us magic, warfare, vanity, weapons, how to kill. They corrupted us, not with claws or curses, but with knowledge. And then they fell, not thrown. They chose to fall. That's what made it terrifying. These weren't demons. They were once angels. So ask yourself, if even the brightest light can fall, what does that say about us? In Enoch's vision, evil wasn't forced on us. We opened the door. We wanted it. We invited it in. And Satan, he wasn't a person. He was a reflection of our desire to disobey, to taste power, to become gods of our own making. In another text, the Book of Jubilees, Satan is called Mastema, a commander of demons, a tester of men, not evil in himself, but a mirror of our weaknesses. So let's be honest. These stories, Belial, Azazel, Mastema, they're not just myths. They're metaphors. Metaphors for how humans explain the evil they don't want to own. Because when society collapses, when leaders fail, when people suffer, we don't say we did this. We say Satan did it. You think we're better today? Look around. We still blame the devil for the choices we make. We still paint villains so we don't have to face our own reflections. But maybe that's the cruelest trick of all. Satan never needed to destroy us. He just needed us to be afraid of ourselves. Picture this, a cold, foggy morning in medieval Europe. The squares crowded. Men, women, children, all huddled together, eyes burning with something far more dangerous than fire. Certainty. At the center stands a woman, bound at the stake. She's accused of witchcraft, consorting with demons, carrying the mark of Satan. Her crime? Knowing herbs. Owning books. Speaking when she wasn't spoken to. The crowd believes they're about to destroy evil. But look closely. There is no devil here. Only fear wearing a mask. By the 12th century, something changed. Satan stopped being an idea. He became an image, a face, a scapegoat, a canvas upon which humanity painted everything they feared, hated, or refused to understand. Artists painted him, theologians described him, rulers used him. His appearance crystallized, crimson skin, twisted horns, a trident in one hand and the world in the other. But here's the bitter truth. That image never came from the Bible. It came from us, from our imagination sharpened by fear. During the Inquisition, the Church hunted heretics not because they challenged God, but because they threatened power. And to justify the flames and blood, they needed a villain. So they painted Satan's face on anyone who dared to question. In the 15th century, the infamous Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches, was published, a book so soaked in paranoia, it became the manual for hunting witches across Europe. Tens of thousands of women healers, midwives were tortured, drowned, and burned alive, all because someone whispered, "She dances with the devil." Their true crime? They lived outside the control of the church and the men who wielded it. It wasn't Satan who destroyed them. It was society, afraid of difference, terrified of freedom. And let's not forget the Toa Andi Jau Te Banya, the Spanish Inquisition. Under the banner of protecting Christian purity, thousands were imprisoned, tortured, and executed. Their only evidence of guilt? A rumor. a suspicion, a neighbor's grudge. Documents from the archives show that many accused heretics were tortured until they confessed to speaking with the devil. But no devil appeared in the room, only human cruelty and institutional power. The devil became convenient, a name you could slap on anyone who made you uncomfortable, anyone who thought differently, anyone who didn't fit the mold. He became a justification for conquest, control, and murder. Fast forward to the 17th century, Salem, Massachusetts, a small Puritan village where a handful of young girls pointed their fingers and cried, "Witch!" 19 people were hanged. One was crushed to death. Many more rotted in prison. And why? Because their neighbors believed they danced with demons. Because fear is contagious, and when a society is looking for someone to blame, they will always find a devil. But here's the cruelest twist. It wasn't Satan who burned women at the stake. It wasn't demons who tortured heretics. It was us. It was humanity, armed with belief and sharpened by fear. Look at the art from that time. Look at the paintings, the sculptures, the woodcuts of hell and torment. They are not warnings. They are reflections. We painted Satan red because it's easier to hate something outside ourselves than to confront the darkness within. And this pattern didn't stop in the Middle Ages. It happens today. Whenever we label others as evil, whenever we divide the world into us versus them, whenever we reduce complex humans into caricatures of monsters, we're still painting devils. We're still building bonfires. Only now, the fire is digital. The accusations viral. The scapegoats new. That's why this story matters. Because it isn't just about medieval superstition or religious violence. It's about how easily we turn our fears into faces and then destroy those faces to feel safe. We created Satan not to explain evil, but to excuse it. The devil you blame may be the choice you refuse to make. So here we are. After tracing Satan through thousands of years of mythology, art, politics, and fear, we arrive not at a monster hiding in the shadows, but at a mirror we've tried to break, a reflection we've been too afraid to recognize. Let's ask ourselves, why did humanity need Satan in the first place? Because it's terrifying to admit that the capacity for evil isn't outside us, it's within. We built entire mythologies to distance ourselves from our darkness. We pointed fingers at demons, at devils, at red-skinned creatures with horns. Because blaming the devil is easier than owning your own decisions. Think about it. When a man cheats, he says, "The devil tempted me." When a nation goes to war, its leaders say they're fighting evil. When people abuse power, they claim they're protecting you from some demonic threat. But what if the real devil is the voice inside that says it's not your fault? In the New Testament, Jesus spends 40 days in the desert. He's hungry, tired, alone. And that's when Satan appears, not with fire and brimstone, but with suggestions. Turn these stones into bread. Throw yourself down and prove your divinity. Bow to me and I'll give you the world. Satan doesn't attack, he offers, he negotiates, he justifies. And that's what temptation really is, a seductive rationalization. A whisper that tells you, this isn't wrong, this is smart. This isn't selfish, it's survival. This isn't evil, it's necessary. That is the Satan most of us face. Not a monster with horns, but a thought. A subtle idea that detaches action from consequence, that masks cowardice as caution, that turns cruelty into convenience. Let's take a modern example. You're online. You see a rumor, ugly, malicious, false. You don't fact check it. You don't care if it hurts someone. You just share it. Why? Because you're angry? Because everyone else is sharing it? Or because in that moment it feels good to watch someone else burn? That's the modern bonfire, and the devil didn't light it. You did. We've come to believe evil must be spectacular. Explosions, murders, possessions. But more often evil is quiet, ordinary, bureaucratic, systemic, polite. It hides in corporate policy, in social media campaigns, and laws passed with smiles and handshakes. It wears a suit, not horns. So what now? If there's no literal devil, if Satan is just a symbol, do we throw the story away? No, we upgrade it because the story of Satan still holds power, but not as a creature to fear, rather as a metaphor to understand ourselves. Satan is the personification of our choices, our capacity to betray our values, to silence our conscience, to justify what we know is wrong. And that means every time we choose empathy over anger, truth over comfort, responsibility over blame, we exorcise the devil, not with holy water, but with awareness. In many religious traditions, Satan's great sin wasn't pride or rebellion, it was refusal. Refusal to bow, refusal to submit, refusal to serve something higher than self. And maybe, just maybe, that's the struggle each of us faces, not with an outside enemy, but with the ego inside. So what if the devil isn't your enemy, but your mirror? What if Satan exists not to torment you, but to challenge you, to test whether you'll choose the easy path or the honest one? What if Satan, in all his mythological complexity, is simply the question: will you take the hard road to become better, or the easy road to stay the same? And maybe that's why he was called the accuser in the book of Job. Not because he hated us, but because he revealed us. So here's the final truth. Satan doesn't make you do anything. He just hands you the pen. You write the story. You choose the ending, you decide who the villain is. And if you're brave enough to look in the mirror, you might realize the devil you've been running from has your handwriting.